Stop. Don't let that girl inside. The guard's voice cut across the lobby before Harper had even reached the door. What's wrong, sir? Check her badge first. Look at her. What's your name? Harper, she said. What are you here for? The Civic Leadership Board interview, sir. 9 o'clock. You look at those shoes. One strap held on with a shoelace. You sure you're not lost? Laughter rippled behind him. Harper didn't answer. She just looked straight ahead, the way her mom had taught her. That was the first 3 seconds of the worst, and best, day of her life. The guard checked the clipboard, scowling like he hoped her name wouldn't be there. It was. Fine. Wait inside. He didn't say sorry. He didn't even look at her again. Harper walked into the lobby and heard the guards laughing behind her. Straight from a warehouse shift to a government interview, one of them said. This board's about to waste 10 minutes. Another candidate glanced up from her tablet, took in Harper's torn strap, and slid her chair a few inches farther away without a word. Harper noticed. She said nothing. She sat down and folded her hands so they'd stop trembling. A clock above the door ticked toward 9. Somewhere behind that door, a panel of strangers was about to decide whether all the years of studying by flashlight had meant anything at all. Nobody in that hallway knew where she'd come from. Nobody knew what it took just to be sitting in that chair. 6 hours earlier, her mother had been shaking her awake before sunrise. Harper, baby. The bus won't wait. Coming, Mom. Her mother pressed a small roll of bills into her palm. Mom, no. That's your medicine money. My medicine can wait a week. Your dream can't. Harper's throat tightened. I'm going to fix everything for you one day. I promise. I don't need fixing, baby. I need people to see you the way I see you. Her mother's hand was cool and thin against her cheek. Go. God's got you. Harper paused at the door, one strap of her sandal already loose against her heel. What if they laugh at me the second I walk in? Then you let them laugh. Laughing costs them nothing. Walking through that door costs you everything you've got. Don't let them win before you've even started. Harper nodded, kissed her mother's forehead, and stepped out into the gray morning before the sun had fully cleared the tree line. The bus driver barely slowed down. Get on, we're already late. 1 ticket to the city, Harper said, counting out crumpled dollars. An older woman across the aisle leaned over. Where you headed, sweetheart? Government interview. Civic Leadership Board. The woman snorted. Everybody wants to be somebody these days. A few riders chuckled. Don't you listen to them, the bus driver called back without turning around. I won't, Harper said, but she gripped her bag a little tighter anyway. The bus rattled over a pothole and her folder of practice notes slid onto the floor. She scooped the pages back together, smoothing out a bent corner on the page where she'd written, in her own handwriting 3 weeks earlier, * people aren't their circumstances. Say that if they ask you anything about being poor. * she hadn't known yet how soon she'd need those exact words. Outside the window, the fields gave way to gas stations, then storefronts, then the first traffic light she'd seen in months. The city always felt like a different country. She checked the time on a stranger's phone across the aisle. 20 minutes until her slot. Her stomach dropped, the bus was still 15 minutes from downtown. Off the bus, her sandal strap tore clean through 2 blocks from the building. She kept walking anyway, one shoe flopping with every step, sweat already soaking through her only good blouse. A woman near a coffee cart caught her stumbling. Whoa, you okay, honey? Fine, ma'am. Strap just broke. Where are you trying to get to, looking like that's the least of your problems? The Civic Leadership Board interview. Room 4. The woman studied her for a second too long. Then she reached down and pulled off her own sandals. Put these on. I can't. I don't have money to pay you back. I'm not selling them today. Just let me be your big sister. She pressed them into Harper's hands. Promise me something instead. Anything. When you're the one with power one day, help somebody the way nobody expected to be helped. I promise. Harper's eyes stung. What's your name? So I can thank you properly. Names don't matter right now. Just remember, people aren't their shoes. The woman smiled and walked off before Harper could ask again. Harper never got the name. She never forgot the sandals. Candidate Harper, please come in. A man's voice called from the interview room. She stepped in, chin up, torn strap hidden in her bag, borrowed sandals steady beneath her. Tell us about yourself. My name is Harper Reeves. I'm from Millbrook Hollow, a small town most maps don't bother labeling. Why public service? Because I've watched people get ignored my whole life. I want to be the reason somebody isn't ignored anymore. If the rules and someone's suffering ever collide, what do you choose? I follow the rule that protects people, and I fight to change the rule that doesn't. The panel exchanged a glance. One of them almost smiled. What's the biggest lesson your life has taught you? That people don't tell you who they are with their clothes. They tell you with what they do when nobody's forcing them to. One panelist leaned forward, testing her. And if we told you right now that a candidate with better shoes and a better resume was sitting outside, waiting to take your spot the moment you gave a wrong answer, would that change anything you just said? No, sir. It would just prove my point twice. The room went quiet for a second. Then the same panelist almost smiled and made a note on his pad. That will be all, Harper. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Outside, one board member murmured to another, that girl has more steel in her than half the candidates we saw all week. Harper walked out lightheaded with relief and starving. She hadn't eaten since the day before. Counting coins in her pocket, she found $15 left after bus fare home. She stopped at a roadside coffee stand. Just a coffee, please, ma'am. Here you go, sweetheart. The first sip brought tears to her eyes. She thought of her mother, who hadn't eaten that morning either, just so Harper could have bus fare. That'll be $2. Actually, keep it, the woman said, waving off the coins. You've got the look of somebody who's earned more than a free coffee. Harper didn't argue. She just squeezed the woman's hand and walked toward the bus stop, carrying a stranger's kindness like a second set of borrowed shoes. Back in Millbrook Hollow, her mother was waiting on the porch. How'd it go, baby? I gave it everything I had, Mom. Now we wait. You'll do fine. I already feel it. Guess she thinks she's already somebody important, a neighbor muttered, just loud enough to carry. Poor as dirt and dreaming big. Harper said nothing. She just smiled and took her mother's hand, walking inside like the words hadn't landed at all, though they had. The next morning, life snapped back into its old shape. Harper returned to the one-room schoolhouse where she tutored the neighborhood kids for almost nothing. Remember, hard work and honesty are worth more than anything money can buy. I'm going to be a big-shot government officer, too, one day, a small boy announced, chest puffed out. Then a cough from the back room. Her mother's cough had gotten worse. Mom, you okay? Just a tickle in my throat. It wasn't just a tickle. Night after night, the cough deepened until one night it brought blood to her mother's lips. Harper didn't sleep. By morning, she had her mother at the county clinic. Easy, Mom. Just breathe. That'll be $3,850 for the full round of medication, the pharmacist said flatly. Can I take part of it now and pay the rest later? I'm sorry, ma'am. It's all or nothing. Partial treatment could make things worse. Please, Harper said, voice cracking. Just give me enough to get her through tonight. I'll bring the rest by Friday. I swear it. I wish I could, ma'am. It's policy. Half a treatment can do more damage than none at all. Harper left the counter with empty hands and a heart that felt like it had been kicked. Her mother was propped up on a gurney in the hallway, too weak to ask what had happened, and Harper couldn't make herself say the words out loud. I couldn't get it. Not tonight. That night, back home, she sat on the floor of her room with her mother's ragged breathing carrying through the thin wall, and she made a decision she couldn't undo. She opened an old tin box she hadn't touched in years, a silver anklet and a small ring from her childhood, the only things of value she owned. You want to sell these? The pawn shop owner asked. Yes, sir. Whatever they're worth. She walked out with cash and medicine, and no piece of her childhood left to hold on to except the promise she'd made to a stranger in borrowed sandals. Word spread through Millbrook Hollow that the shoe girl had actually interviewed for a federal leadership post. Some still snickered. Others started showing up at her door with quiet respect, including her old teacher, Mr. Bennett. Whatever the result, Harper, you've already given the girls in this town permission to dream bigger. 2 weeks crawled by. Every morning Harper watched the road for the mail truck that would carry her whole future. It finally came, a government envelope, sealed and official, addressed to her. Her hands shook so hard she nearly tore the letter along with the flap. What is it, baby? Mom, her breath caught. I made it. I'm in. Civic Leadership Board. Accepted. The news moved through Millbrook Hollow faster than a wildfire. Neighbors who once mocked her torn sandals now stood outside her door, ashamed. We're sorry, Harper. We had no right to talk about you that way. I don't hold it against any of you, she said, and meant it. Then she reached the bottom of the letter and her smile faltered. She had 30 days to report to the National Service Academy in Fairview, hundreds of miles away, for training. Between her mother's ongoing treatment and a family with nothing left to sell, the trip might as well have been to the moon. But something in Millbrook Hollow had shifted. The same neighbors who doubted her started showing up with what little they had. This is a train ticket to Fairview. Take it. I can't accept. You can and you will. These clothes are for you, for the academy, an older woman said, holding out a folded bag, refusing to let Harper wave it off. You'll walk into that place looking like you belong, because you do. This is for your mother's treatment. It isn't much, but it's ours to give, a man Harper barely knew said, pressing an envelope into her hands, his own eyes wet. Even the neighbor who'd once called her poor as dirt showed up on the porch with a covered dish and nothing to say for herself, but I was wrong about you. I'm sorry it took this long to admit it. You never let me feel alone, Harper said, voice breaking. I won't forget any of this. The day she left for Fairview, half the town lined the road to see her off. Make this whole town proud, Mr. Bennett said. I won't let this town down. Not ever. I'll come back, she told her mother, holding her hand at the bus door. I promise. We'll be right here waiting, her mother whispered. Please introduce yourself, the instructor said on her first day at the academy. My name is Harper Reeves. I'm from a small town most people have never heard of. A senior officer addressed the room. Remember, a true public servant isn't defined by their title. They're defined by their service. The dorm rooms at the academy were nothing like Millbrook Hollow, sharp corners, cold marble floors, recruits who name-dropped colleges Harper had only read about in brochures. That first night she lay awake listening to two roommates compare which prep courses their parents had paid for. Neither of them noticed the girl in the third bed who'd gotten there without any of it. One by one, new recruits introduced themselves. When it was her turn again later that week, she spoke without notes. "My name is Harper Reeves. My father passed when I was young. My mother cleaned houses so I could stay in school. I went through public school and community college with no private tutoring. And I got here through work, not connections." Applause rippled through the hall. "Now tell us, what's the biggest problem in towns like yours, and how would you fix it?" "The biggest problem isn't laziness. It's that opportunity never shows up. If real schools, real clinics, and real support actually reached small towns, no town would be left behind. Poor people don't need pity. They need a fair shot." "Well said, Harper. That's the mindset of someone ready to lead." That night, alone in her dorm room reviewing the next day's material, her phone rang. It was Mr. Bennett. "Harper, I need to tell you something. It's not good." "What's wrong?" "Your mother's condition took a turn. The doctors say you need to come home now. My mother is seriously ill. I need emergency leave immediately. Go. Your mother matters more than anything on this schedule. Leave is granted, effective now. Thank you. Please just keep her safe until I get there." By morning she was standing in the ICU at the county hospital. Her mother was barely conscious, tubes running everywhere. "You made it," her mother whispered. "I'm here, Mom. Don't leave me. I still need you." Her mother's grip tightened, then loosened. The machines around her began to scream. Doctors rushed in. Nurses pushed Harper into the hallway. She waited, forehead against the cold wall, praying without words. The doctor came out. His face said it before his mouth did. "I'm so sorry. She's gone." "No, she can't be gone. She can't leave me like this." The neighbor who used to mock her showed up at the hospital that same hour, and for the first time, without a single sharp word. "You're not alone anymore, baby. This whole town has you now." The funeral was small. Half the town showed up anyway, standing quiet in a line that stretched past the gate, the same people who used to whisper about torn sandals now standing with their heads bowed. Harper didn't cry in front of them. She saved that for the bus ride back, forehead pressed to the cold window glass, watching Millbrook Hollow shrink into the distance. She buried her mother there, then boarded the bus back to Fairview, because her mother's last words had been a command, not a request. "Keep going. Welcome back," the academy director said. "We trust you'll finish your training with everything you've got." "Yes, sir. I'll finish this for her." A true public servant is defined by service, not title. "I understand, sir. I won't waste this chance." Months later, Harper stood on a stage in her graduation uniform as her name was called for the highest honor of her class. The same roommates who'd once compared prep course price tags stood and clapped along with everyone else, because by then nobody in that hall doubted what she'd earned. In that moment she saw her mother's face smiling, the way she used to smile from the porch. Asterisk, this one's for you, Mom. Asterisk, she didn't cry until she was back in her dorm room alone, holding a folded photograph of the two of them from years before either of them had anything worth losing. Her first posting came just weeks later, district administrator, assigned to her own home county. The government car rolled into Millbrook Hollow, and the whole road was lined with people waiting to see her. Kids on their parents' shoulders, old classmates who used to walk past her on the other side of the street. The very guards from the interview building were nowhere near, but their laughter felt like it belonged to a different lifetime now. Harper walked first to her mother's grave, lit a candle, and stood there a long moment, the sound of the crowd behind her fading into something distant and unimportant. "Everything I am, I owe to you." Then she went to the schoolhouse where she used to teach for almost nothing. "Welcome, Administrator Reeves. Let's start with an inspection. This roof needs repair. Begin the work today." Yes, ma'am. We'll start immediately. She walked the halls where she used to sit on a broken chair to teach kids their letters for almost no pay, running her hand along a water-stained ceiling tile that had been leaking since before she'd even sat for the interview. How long has this been like this? She asked the principal. Years, ma'am. There was never enough in the budget. There's enough now. Send me the full list of everything this building needs. All of it. At the clinic, she gave the same order. I don't want a single family in this county turned away because they can't pay up front. Fix that today. Understood, Administrator. We'll have it sorted by this afternoon. She stopped at the same pharmacy counter where years earlier she'd been told it was all or nothing. The pharmacist behind the register didn't recognize her. Harper didn't remind him. She just made sure the new policy went into effect before she left the building. An older woman approached her outside the clinic. Harper recognized her instantly, the pharmacist's neighbor who'd once brought her coffee. You remember me? I never forgot you. Or your coffee. I always knew you'd go far, sweetheart. Later that same week, a familiar face turned up at a town meeting, the woman from the city sidewalk, the one who'd handed over her own sandals without a second thought. You're the one who saved my interview that day, Harper said, stunned, rising halfway out of her chair. I had a feeling about you, the woman said, laughing at the reaction. I just didn't expect far to mean this far. I looked for you for months after that day. I never even got your name. Then let's fix that. The woman held out her hand properly this time. Dana. And for what it's worth, I never forgot you either. Dana, your kindness carried me farther than you'll ever know. You kept your promise. That's more than most people manage. Dana nodded toward the room full of county staff waiting on Harper's next order. Now go keep it for somebody else. Millbrook Hollow began to change, a repaired school roof, a clinic that turned no one away, a county government that finally looked people in the eye. The boy who once bragged he'd grow up to be a big-shot officer was in the front row the day Harper cut the ribbon on the new clinic wing, grinning like he'd been right all along. Word of the shoe girl turned administrator spread beyond the county line, then beyond the state. Reporters came asking for interviews. Harper gave most of them the same answer no matter how the question was phrased, that the county didn't need a hero. It needed people who kept their promises. Then she'd go back to work, because promises, she'd learned, weren't kept with speeches. They were kept with roofs that didn't leak and clinics that didn't turn families away. If people ask what changed everything for Harper Reeves, the answer isn't the interview or the badge or the title. It's a torn strap, a stranger's sandals, and a promise made on a sidewalk 2 blocks from a room that almost didn't let her in. Ask the guards who once laughed at her, if you can even find them now. Most of them don't tell that story anymore. Nobody's future fits in the shoes they walked in wearing.